Hello, in my last video I started by telling the story of how I developed a neurological condition very shortly after having a flu jab. I spoke about how I experienced strange sensations in the side of my face and problems with speech and balance, and how I went to see the doctor who sent me to a neurologist, and how the neurologist said it was all down to stress and that I should go back to work and forget about it. Having had this experience with the neurologist and having realised that there was no way that I would be able to go back to my work, as my work involved um, administering medicines for one thing, and looking after children with profound physical and learning disabilities. And I could see I couldn't do the job. For a start, my balance was terrible when I was on my feet, and my speech was becoming increasingly worse. My concentration wasn't good, and I generally was not well enough to return to work. So I returned back to my GP, and I saw yet another locum, and this locum decided to send me for a second opinion to a nearby neurologist. The neurologist that I saw seemed to be more sympathetic, and he did all the usual neurological tests, plus he had a whole batch of blood tests done, and he sent me to have an MRI scan just to be sure that there wasn't anything there that needed urgent treatment. And anyhow, I went for my neurological examination, my MRI, and a few weeks later I heard that it was clear, and was then sent a letter to say that I would need to wait until July before I would see my neurologist again. Well, it was April that I had my MRI, and they were going to make me wait till July before I had any more input. Well, during this time my condition worsened. Up until then I had been able to walk quite a reasonable distance most days. I would try to do about a mile, which I did very slowly and with increased difficulty towards the end of the mile. Having worked with people with disabilities, I knew the importance of using or losing, and I didn't want to lose my walking ability completely by becoming deconditioned, so I continued on this, but it became more and more difficult, and the days that I could do it became less and less. My speech problems were still the same, the altered sensation in my face was the same, and then in May a new symptom appeared which I was totally unprepared for, and as it's happened so often, it started intermittently, and I would get these jerking sensations which made me look as if I'd been startled, and these were quite disconcerting, and I had one or two in the week in the run up to the May Bank holiday weekend. But by the time I got to the May Bank holiday weekend, I woke up on the Saturday and I was having these continuously, very violently. My head would fly back and I would hit the chair behind me. If I lay down, the same would happen. My whole body would convulse, and there was nothing I could do to suppress it. And eventually, having endured it for a couple of days, I phoned the on-duty GP and got diazepam, which helped to calm it slightly, but never completely got rid of it. And this symptom has been part of my life ever since. And if I lie down, I'm jumping about. My body moves in a convulsion. If I'm sitting and watching something on television, my head will fly back. Sometimes it's stronger than others, but generally being comfortable has become increasingly difficult. Anyhow, I eventually got to see my neurologist again in the July. By this time I was using a walking stick because my balance was so bad and my legs just did not move in the way that they used to. Now, I was still having the odd day when I was reasonably okay, but generally speaking, my legs were not moving as they should. And I saw the neurologist again. He did the usual neurological examination again. I told him about my symptoms. He saw me have what I now come to know are called myoclonic jerks, because as soon as I laid down I was jerking around, and he seemed to totally ignore this, and said he could find nothing wrong, and I believe he put it down to, once again, to stress, and uh, and said there was nothing really he could do for me. I did suggest that whether it might be ME, because I had read a little bit about ME, and I did wonder, but he didn't know anything about ME, and so he basically said I should try to go back to work. Well, I worked 20 miles away from where I live, so the next day, almost out of annoyance, I tried to drive the 20 miles to work, and I managed to get there, but by that time my concentration was not very good, and I could see there was no way that I would be able to work. I was totally exhausted from the drive, and there's no way that I could have moved, manhandled people, and done the type of care work that I would have needed to have done. Plus, I was a deputy manager, so I also had responsibility for staff as well. So that was up into July, and from then on, I saw my GP again, and he really didn't know what to do with me. So I started to do some of my own investigation, and in the next video I'll talk a little bit about that. Thank you for watching.